Since I was young, my parents told me never to gamble because gambling was bad, it was risky, it was a waste of time and money. Being a very good girl, I followed my parents' advice. As I grew up, I did not dare to gamble. But out of curiosity, when Singapore opened their casino, well, I tried for the first time. And make a guess, did I win or lose? I lost and I felt very disappointed. I had thought I could ride on beginner's luck, but I didn't. That's the thing about betting, right? Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Life is just like betting, isn't it? We may not realize this, but we bet every single day. In this game of life, we need to constantly make decisions, and every decision we make comes at a certain cost and risk. Committing into a new relationship, getting married, having kids, taking a new job, starting a new business. Is there any guarantee that it's going to be successful? And every decision we make is like placing a bet. Unlike gambling where our bets are left to chance, in life, we can make bets with calculated risk. Beyoncé once said something interesting that sticks with me till today. She said, "I don't like to gamble, but if there is one thing I'm willing to bet on, it's myself." Do you dare to bet on yourself? Most of us grew up in environments that have conditioned us to be risk-averse. As a teenager, I did not bet on myself because I feared failure. So I chose to play safe. My fear of failure started in high school. Can you remember what it was like when you had to present in front of the class? How did you feel? And I want you to imagine this. Your name is called. The moment you walk in front of the class, can you feel the butterflies in your stomach? As you take step after step, your heart beats a million times per second. Another step, your knees tremble, palms sweaty, you feel extremely nervous. That was my experience that day, 20 years ago. As I walked in front of the class, I was supposed to recite poetry which I had memorized every single word. And guess what? I froze. 40 pairs of eyes looked at me in pity. Felt humiliated. I returned to my seat. I cried. And as expected, I failed my exam. That incident left a scar in my life. That experience made it traumatic for me to speak in public. Whenever I had to speak in public, I would be fearful of being judged, being seen, and being heard by others. That image of being frozen in front of the class popped up and haunted me. I would look tense, tremble, and end up not presenting well. I grew up beating myself up again and again. I felt I was not good enough and developed a low self-esteem. My journey of battling trauma doesn't end there. I moved to Singapore to study. I struggled very hard to speak English and battled with public speaking trauma. And it was really challenging. Change was definitely not easy. I almost failed to get my degree because of my lack of English proficiency. I doubted myself many times. But when I saw my parents working very hard to fund my education in Singapore, it was like they bet on me to succeed, even though they had told me not to gamble. They had not much savings to begin with, but they had only faith that I would do well. I remember one day when I visited my parents during school holiday. It was 6:30 a.m. in Jakarta. My dad sent me to the airport. We saw a beautiful sunrise on our way. He looked at me and told me, Ratna, your future, just like this sunrise, it'll be bright. I teared, and deep down inside, I told myself that I would not disappoint him. It was love that inspired me to take the leap of faith to bet on myself. That conversations with my dad touched me deeply and inspired me to change from within to be a better version of myself. And ever since then, there has been a strong calling to grow through the discomfort and an empowering voice within me that tells me to bet on myself. And after that conversations, whenever there have been opportunities to speak or host events, I would volunteer myself. Still, my mind and body weren't in sync. Whenever I raised my hand, my mind would ask, why did you do that? It was so challenging to battle this conflict within myself. It's never been easy to do something that we fear, and it takes a bigger why, bigger than our fear, to motivate us to push the boundaries and persevere when the going gets tough. As a human being, our nature is to learn and grow every day. But have you ever asked yourself, what drives you to do something today that makes you better than yesterday? When you find that something that pushes you to be better each day, that is your bigger why. My bigger why is to make a difference in other people's lives, including my parents. This helps me to discover a clear sense of purpose and enable me to bet on myself, focus my effort on what matters most, and have the courage to take risks despite challenges. My discovery made me realize that when I decided to bet on myself, I was taking a risk that had no guaranteed outcome, something that was very, very scary for me. However, I gave myself a shot to win big. I gave myself a chance to live bigger than I ever thought possible. From a shy girl who went through a traumatic public speaking experience in my high school, I'm humbled by the opportunities and wonderful experiences to host weddings, corporate events, facilitate trainings, and be interviewed by the media, and now speaking to you on this TEDx platform. We all have fears and struggles. How can we break free from them? Here's how I bet on myself despite the fear that holds me back. B. Believe in yourself. Believe. This is a very powerful word, and I believe never underestimate the power of believing in yourself. I failed many times, and that's where I pick myself up again and build my confidence by doing, learning, making mistakes, and fixing it. Our confidence is built through exposing failure, daring to act with the confidence we wish we had, and believing in ourselves that even if we fail, we will figure it out. I learned this the hard way. And I still remember the time when I received my first training engagement. It was a last-minute presentation training that would be held the following day. I have never facilitated this session before, but I said yes to conducting it despite uncertainty. Murphy's Law happened on that day. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong. I forgot to bring my laptop battery. I borrowed my ex-boss' laptop, and I felt very nervous to begin with. I wasn't well prepared and received a complaint from one of the participants. And after hearing about the complaint, my face turned red. I felt really anxious and wanted to run away. But at that moment, I asked myself, what would I like to create out of this session? I want to create a great experience and outcome for all the participants. I choose to believe in myself, to be courageous, and to have fun in the process and to be of service to people. Because of that, it changed the way I facilitated the session, and at the end of the training, great outcomes were created from believing in myself and having the power to choose my response. And I realized that my confidence is being built the more I say yes to myself, the more I bet on myself. E, embrace your imperfections. Betting on ourselves requires us to embrace our imperfections. From the earlier incident, I learned to embrace my imperfections as a way to help me to grow to be a better speaker. Many times, I feel inadequate about my inability to speak confidently and communicate my ideas. Some of us might feel not pretty or handsome enough. Some are afraid of being judged about our shortcomings. Embracing our imperfections takes courage. Courage to see those parts of ourselves that we don't want to see. And my public speaking trauma brought a feeling of shame, guilt, and embarrassment. As I started on my healing journey, I chanced upon the practice of mindfulness. According to the mindfulness guru Jon Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness is the awareness that arises by paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Being in the mindful state helped me to be aware of my thoughts around my imperfections. Take for examples, when I'm preparing for this TEDx event, there were many thoughts that appeared, like my grammar is not good enough, my presentation skills are lacking, I don't have enough time to prepare, and the list goes on. Mindfulness helps us not to rehearse about the past or worry about the future, but being present with our experience in the present moment and to give our best effort in the areas within our control. This practice has been life-changing for me. It allows me to make peace with my imperfections, embrace it with kindness, and discover this inner strength to overcome whatever challenges that comes along. Embracing imperfections allows me to progress, to move forward, and to bet on myself. T, take responsibilities for your mistakes. When we bet on ourselves, put ourselves out there, certain things might not go the way we intended. It is easy to point fingers at others, but it takes humility and courage to look within and take ownership of our mistakes and fix it. In my earlier story about facilitating a presentation training session, I could have blamed my ex-boss for giving me last-minute training engagement, but I took full responsibilities for my mistakes and chose my response by taking aligned actions according to my core values. Mistakes and failures are just part of this betting journey. At the end of the day, what I found really helpful is not to get too caught up with the end results, but to celebrate a little milestones along the way. And most importantly, celebrate the person we are becoming. When you bet on yourself, remember to believe in yourself. When you bet on yourself, remember to embrace your imperfections. When you bet on yourself, remember to take responsibilities for your mistakes. And take a look at our life. We have everything we need to play in this betting game. We have our cards, experiences, skills accumulated over time. We also have our chips, our time, money, resources to play. And we have dice, probability of winning at every move. We need to play the game to enjoy the fun. And again, it's really not about winning or losing. Enjoying the game is all that matters. When you go home today, I want you to ask yourself, what is your bigger why? Once you find it, believe in yourself despite all the doubts you have. Embrace your imperfections with kindness and take responsibilities for your mistakes. That's what will allow you to bet on yourself. Thank you.